Greetings from Less Lethal Options. Today we are going to ask and answer all of the most important questions you should have. The delusions that some less lethal content creators and manufacturers are apostatizing will be detrimental to your well-being if believed and acted upon. We are here today to try and get the record straight. The panel of Carly, Mike, myself, Moses, and Carlotta will be answering the questions presented by yours truly. The first question people will ask is about the legality of a specific less lethal device, or less lethal devices in general. The answer is, it depends on you local laws and ordinances. Federal or state laws don't override local laws unless they are subjects such as civil rights. Learn the actual laws and ordinances, don't rely on hearsay or statements made by law enforcement officers. The fact that LEOs may not rigorously enforce certain laws doesn't make them legal either in a criminal or civil case. Know that the laws regarding less lethal devices ownership and home use may differ widely from their possession and use on the street. No one knows what will happen if you kill someone with a less than lethal device. It depends on your locale, juries, prosecutor, the deceased's family, etc. My seat of the pants non-legal opinion is, if the deceased fell and hit their head from a taser charge or had a respiratory attack from pepper spray, your chances of escaping without penalty is a lot greater than if they died from a wound from a 50-plus joules launcher, shooting bullet like projectiles. I could answer the next question or give it to Mike, who would love to answer it. Instead, I am going to pose the question to Carlotta because she originally used a Byrna EP pepper ball launcher as one of her concealed carries. Carlotta, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Moses. I am ready. What is the question?
Do you think pepper balls are an acceptable tool for self-defense?
First, let me give some background. I think of myself as a modern woman, and I did my due diligence, or so I thought. The less lethal industry for civilians was and is still small. Byrna was obviously one of the leaders in the field, with law enforcement and security. It also was the only company I could find that actually had commercials geared towards civilians. They would show simulations of people using the Byrna launchers with pepper balls, keeping potential attackers at bay. The fact that you didn't have to let the criminal get close was a great attraction. I knew nothing about firearms or personal defense. I started searching for and watching YouTube content on less lethal devices. I started with pepper spray, since many of my friends and acquaintances carried it. My husband and I talked about getting firearms and a firearm permit, but neither of us wanted to go in that direction. I checked my local laws and state laws and determined that pepper spray, tasers, and the Byrna launchers were legal at home and legal to conceal carry. Air guns were legal at home, but not in public. Ironically, pepper balls were not legal. This dampened my spirits. Once I got into pepper spray, however, the fact that pepper balls were illegal for me was of no concern. The concept of shooting someone or object near them and expecting the dust cloud of irritants to be debilitating didn't seem to make much sense. With pepper spray, you can spray directly onto someone's face, and even then they may fight through it or it might not take effect for precious seconds. I still liked the Byrna EP first shot setup and went with it. It wasn't until I started to interface with you three that two critical points about less lethal defense became known to me.
I know you wondering why I had Carlotta talk about pepper balls when she never even used them. Her story about getting into the less lethal defense community is reflective of many. There would be the magical pepper ball that will stop assailants from 20 feet away. This smoke and mirrors fantasy is not harmful if outgrown when one obtains better insight and information. For many, however, they live and might die thinking pepper balls are going to save them. Why I call pepper balls smoke and mirrors is because we are shown the effects of the irritant powder as proof of concept. No one here is arguing against the potency of the pepper balls. They are about as good as an effective pepper spray, chemically speaking. The problem is with the application. The pepper balls may or may not explode. The impact sends the cloud of irritant in a 360-degree pattern, whereby only some of the powder may hit the face, eyes, etc. The assailant will be moving towards you so they don't linger in the cloud or clouds that each pepper balls causes. Pepper ball dust is way more likely to be blown back toward the shooter and possibly many bystanders than a liquid or gel pepper spray. The final point is to answer the question that if pepper balls are so ineffective, why do countless law enforcement and security agencies use them? The answer is they can be effective for those applications. Examples would be crowd control, someone barricades themselves in a car, room, what have you. You bombard the space with pepper balls and wait for it to take effect. Any charging assailant against a police person will get a bullet if armed with a deadly weapon, or a taser, pepper spray, baton, or their fist, if not. They know using pepper balls to stop a charging assailant is foolish. The question is, does pain compliance work in and of itself? If not, how can any non-lethal launcher be effective? Carlotta, this is one of the great truths you had mentioned, but not named. We will give this one to Carly.
When I decided not to get a firearm, I knew I wanted something to shoot at an assailant. That started as a pepper spray gun, then I added the taser, and finally the most powerful stock ready-to-go launcher, the Grimberg Gavel. I researched the term jewels that all the less lethal gurus were mentioning. It became clear, the higher the better. I have a growing business and live in a crazy liberal state that protects the criminals and not the citizens. I could see a lawsuit coming if I permanently hurt or killed someone with a heavily modified launcher. I had first looked at the Byrna, but that was clearly a pepper ball launcher and didn't have enough power to deter most assailant with kinetic rounds. The SD/EP models have about the same power as paintball markers. The first shot of the LE is not too bad, but it drops down into the not effective range real quick. The neighborhood I grew up in was not as nice as where I live now. I, therefore, had immediate concerns about stopping assailants with pain. I knew I had to have something that would cause enough pain and perhaps damage, that even some of the thugs from my old neighborhood would back off. Power is the second truth, but the third truth makes the second truth almost mute.
The third truth is best stated as a tenet, rather than as a question. If you can't deploy your less lethal device in time, it is worthless. Mike, you used to carry your pepper ball TCP launcher in a bag. How fast can you deploy, and how fast do we all need to be able to deploy?
I thought I had the quick deployment thing covered by carrying my launcher in a plastic shopping bag. I figured if I suspected something was going to go down, I could put my hand in the bag and look in as if I am searching for something. I would instead be charging the launcher. With the launcher ready to go, I could retrieve it from the bag and fire at the assailant in 2 seconds or less. What later understood is that I was just perpetrating another version of the fantasy, that you will get any kind of advance warning before an attack. Let's look at a previously shown clip.
Guys, it's almost 9 p.m. outside talking outside the grocery store when the dude comes up, pulls a knife.
Well, as you can see, there is no way to predict that attack. The criminal wasn't wearing a mask or hoodie. He looked like just a regular guy in work clothes. What, however, if he looked more suspicious? That would put you on the alert, but given how fast he would be upon you, what could you do? Under no circumstances could you have time to charge your launcher and fire. What you could do is move away casually when you see anyone coming that could be a threat and give yourself some space to draw and fire. That, however, creates a constant state of paranoia. In an urban environment or even in a suburban shopping mall, you will be passed by constant individuals who may look suspicious. Trying to react to each one will probably get you committed for mental help. You need to be able to deploy a launcher ready to fire, or a taser in 3 seconds or less. The best way to gain those 3 seconds is to have pepper spray in your hand at all times when out in public, in malls, public transit, or on the street. If you have medium to large hands, you can keep it palmed. Those with smaller hands might have to keep their hands in their pockets. You have to keep both hands in your pockets. If you walk around with one hand in your pocket, you will look like you are hiding a weapon, in which you are going to pull out at any moment. You will look suspicious to other less lethal and lethal defenders. You spray the assailant and try to move away and dodge his knife, if possible. There is a chance you will be cut. Hopefully the assailant pauses long enough for you to get out of knife range and draw and fire at them. Back away as fast as possible, but don't turn your back on the assailant. If you have a fast reload, do that. Understand. Most experts will tell you to comply when confronted by a knife-wielding robber. This is good advice. If you are of a mindset to resist, you need to practice your draw to get it as fast as possible. With the most powerful concealed carry launchers, you have to screw the CO2 cartridge in to charge the weapon. You will have to practice like training for the Olympics to get a draw, charge, and fire accurately sequence to 3 seconds or less. Failure to meet that speed should set your sights to something with a bang to charge system, even though it will be less powerful. Basically, the rule of thumb for less lethal defenders against a knife wielder is similar to the rule of thumb for a firearm carrier assailed by a firearm carrying robber. If someone gets the drop on you, comply. If you get a chance to counter ambush, make sure that you have the draw speed and accuracy to pull it off.
There have been a lot of testing of less lethal launchers published on YouTube. They vary from serious builders, hobbyists, and committed less lethal folks to those made to promote a commercial product, or by people who carry all types of content and thought it topical to do something on less lethal devices. I take all of the testing for the most part to be well-meaning and done honestly. That said, most are misleading as to the power and capability of a less lethal launcher against a clothed human being. A few brave souls have taken hits from launchers to see just how much it would hurt. I only know of one gentleman who took hits by a launcher shooting the projectiles at around 38 joules. This is the most significant test I have come upon so far. It is in the low to middle end of the 30 to 50 joules range that we think will be effective in deterring most attackers. The tester was wearing winter clothes, but they weren't very thick. In the spring through fall in most of the country, clothing won't be much protection. The bottom line, however, is he continued the video. Since few are willing to get shot by a powerful launcher, all kinds of materials are used to test the power and effectiveness of a launcher. Understand shooting various materials can be used to compare the power between various launchers and projectiles, but does not equate to what effects they will have on a human being. Probably the most deceptively poor material to shoot and testing is things made out of metal. Metals are harder than the human body. Anything that can damage them would do worse on a human. Wrong. They dent easily and hard plastics penetrate easily. A noted less lethal channel, Rune Rebel, uses what I use for a projectile trap, a trash can. He uses some rags. I use a folded bath towel. The trap easily handles projectiles shot at 50 plus joules, while the same shot would go through 5 stacked aluminum bake pans and tear a hole in a thin steel cookie sheet. The human body is more like the folded towel. It will give quite a bit, diffusing much of the striking energy, and it is also thick and hard to penetrate with round projectiles, traveling at relatively slow velocities. Plywood, melons, water jugs, sheetrock, coconuts, etc., can be very helpful in comparing launchers' power levels, and various types of projectiles. However, none of those tests can be equated directly to the effects on a human being, in terms of causing them to stop their attack, unless they show lethal capability. The only credible evidence of the effectiveness of our less lethal launchers on people is by testing it on a person. We tend to equate likely damage and after effects with stopping an attack in the moment. People have continued to attack after being fatally wounded. How an assailant would suffer after your defense later that day, or whether they would require hospitalization or would have cracked ribs, major bruising, etc., does not translate directly to whether they would have continued or broken off their attack. The hard truth is the only way to assure an attack is broken off is you giving the attacker so much trauma that they lose the ability to continue the attack due to bodily damage or death. Understand the gentleman Jeff McKay of the Umarex Less Lethal channel and Facebook user group previously had taken 2 shots at 30 joules in another video before the epic 38 joule shots. He was able to finish the video, show the damage and talk about how it felt. This is way more pain than an assailant will feel, pumped up in predatory mode charging at you with murderous intent. If you stand and let someone hit you as hard as they can, you are going to feel more pain and injury immediately than if you are in a fight and got hit just as hard. You will continue the fight. No type of less lethal device, including high-powered launchers, is a replacement for a firearm. They are substitutes, with only a fraction of a firearm's capability. Pain is not much of a deterrent compared to deadly force. Knowing less lethal devices are inferior for protecting oneself and home, we at Less Lethal Options have still decided to take that defensive path. I will now open up the discussion to my co-presenters and a round-table discussion about why we made that choice.
There are good reasons for me to give up on going less lethal, but I am going to stay the course. I have made some changes to my less lethal arsenal and how I conduct myself when away from home. The first thing I did before making my decision to stay less lethal was to really study the people I would see when going about my daily activities. I supplemented that with watching a lot of actual crimes in action on the various YouTube channels. The questions I asked myself were, where would an attack likely happen? What would be the nature of the attack? Who would likely be the attacker? What would I need to carry to escape the threat on the street, and how would I defend my home? Finally, what skills-out systems would I need to learn or implement? When I evaluated my daily activities outside the home, I found that on crowded streets, I was only subject to purse snatchers, not full-blown stick-ups. My most vulnerable situations were in parking lots, be it outside at shopping centers, or corporate indoors, or public indoors parking facilities. On the street, my likely purse snatcher will be relatively young and fleet of foot, or an addict, looking for anything that can be turned into their next fix. Purse snatchers often work in teams with a getaway motorbike being driven by the partner. Because purse snatching was the most likely assault I would receive on the street, I had to change my less lethal carrying system. It no longer made sense to carry my gavel launcher in my bag or briefcase, as they would be the thieves' targets. I then tried to carry my gavel launcher on my body, but my petite size made concealment impossible due to my need to wear business attire. I went with the taser, as Carlotta and her husband are high on them. I had no problem concealed carrying the taser, and I carried pepper spray in convenient spots or in my hands so that I could deploy it quickly. Parking lots are the bane of my personal safety. In my fantasy scenario, I would spray the assailant with pepper spray, retreat far enough away to retrieve and charge my gavel and fire accurately at the assailant. I would then make my way to my car, using the gavel to cover me. Get in and drive away, then call 911. However, when I actually studied my walks to my car, I could see that some could easily hide themselves, no matter how alert I was, quickly spring from their hiding place and confront me. I will talk about how I plan on dealing with that real-world reality in the next go-around.
Like Carly, my bane is parking lots. I don't walk the streets in the city, and only go to the city maybe twice a week. My only transitional situations are going from and to my car. I always park in parking lots and never on the street. Carrying my TCP launcher in a bag is not going to do it. I realize that I will get no advance warning from an assailant, and certainly not enough in advance to charge the TCP. I thought about pre-charging the TCP and carrying it around until my business is done and I am in my car heading home. Leaving the TCP charged, however, might lead to a failure. My solution is to carry 3 less lethal devices. I will carry pepper spray in my hand, a taser in a belly band holster, and my TCP in a bag as always. I can deploy the taser in under 2 seconds, and the pepper spray even faster. Depending on the distance of the assailant, when he makes his intentions known, I will use the taser if they are 10 to 15 feet from me, and the pepper spray if they are right on top of me. Best case scenario, I stop the threat long enough to get to my car with just either the pepper spray or taser. Worst case, I will need to deploy my TCP launcher.
On the street, I have become a big fan of the taser. I know that law enforcement statistics have it being successful 50% of the time, but I don't think that will apply to the civilian population at all. The main reason is what law enforcement calls success is totally different for civilians. If a perpetrator gets away, or doesn't get under submission after being tased, if they goes down initially but the prongs pull out and they get up and starts fighting, if they don't fall down but just stand like a statue in mental or drug confusion, and more. The taser will be labeled unsuccessful. The mentioned scenarios, along with many others not mentioned, will be successes for we civilians. We don't need to apprehend or subdue our assailant. We only need time to temporarily halt the attack and escape. My husband and I have done some testing with the taser. My husband took one for the team and we have spent a couple $100 practicing their use and accuracy. On the streets during the course of my normal activities, I expect to only be accosted by purse snatchers and aggressive homeless types. Pepper spray and the taser should work for me. I do, however, have some trepidation about tweaked-up addicts or mental cases not responding to either the pepper spray or the taser. I might add the new Pepperball TRP to my carries, but it would have to be in my bag.
Well, my travels could lead me into a confrontation with all sorts of miscreants. I ride a bike along river trails that have homeless encampments. I take public transport to and from the city sometimes. I walk or ride my bike on city streets, where I may be accosted for my bike and personal possessions. Note, all of our actions are for assailants without firearms. Trying to confront or counter-ambush a gun-toting assailant with any less lethal device is risk-taking to its highest possible order. I carry pepper spray and a taser when out on public transportation and walking the streets. When on my bike, I carry pepper spray and my Pepperball TCP. The pepper spray needs to buy me 5 to 6 seconds getaway time. With that kind of lead, not even Usain Bolt can catch me. The TCP is for when I am knocked from my bike or caught in situations where I have to surrender it. If the assailants concentrate on taking possession of the bike for 4 seconds or more, I will have my TCP out and blasting away. I keep a second loaded magazine in a bar-mounted bike bag. We all are drifting back into fantasy scenarios where the criminals adhere to our defensive plans. Well, this video series is about the truth and nothing but the truth. So in round 2, we will pick apart our best laid plans and discuss how real criminals are likely to act. We, however, need to take a break. There is still a lot more to come. We haven't discussed the real realities of burglaries versus home invasions for the less lethal defender. Part 2 will be coming soon. Until then. Greetings from Less Lethal Options. For those of you who have seen Part 1, welcome back. We will continue our roundtable discussion on what is the raw truth about less lethal for personal defense away from home. In Part 1 we had left off with each of us defining how we will handle confrontations on the streets. In Round 2, we will try and show all the fallacies or problems with said scenarios. Our criticism and retorts have to be logical, backed up with reason and examples, when possible. Let's get started. We left off with each of us stating how we would handle an away-from-home confrontation. I felt that we were falling into the fantasy trap that so many have. We are now going to play the devil's advocate as we look for flaws in each of our defense plans. Carlotta and Carly, you both identified a purse snatcher as your most likely assailant on the streets you travel. There are not specific statistics, but in many, if not most purse snatching incidents, the perpetrator will knock down or punch the victim to make grabbing the handbag easier. Any comments?
Nice try, Moses, but my plan remains the same. I should note that I have my handbag strap over my head, such it can't be yanked away without me going with it. Whether I am standing, kneeling, or laying on my back, I will give the assailant pepper spray as he tries to remove the bag from my body. In short, by not carrying my bag on my shoulder, most experienced thieves will pass me for easier targets. The inexperienced, stupid, or desperate ones will get the pepper spray. If the tug-of-war persists for my bag, I will bring out and shoot my taser. If the taser doesn't work, because of the close distance, I will use its stun gun feature to zap the assailant into letting go of his grip. The assailant only has seconds to work with and must flee the scene before being confronted by the police or someone in the pedestrian traffic. So, Moses, I think my plan is not a fantasy scenario. In a parking lot, an assailant will not be able to get a running start towards me, as I will hear them coming, and I will constantly be looking around as I move towards my car. It is possible that someone could leap from a hiding place and strike me before I could react. To neutralize that possibility, I walk in the middle of the car lane, such that no one can start their attack closer than about 15 feet. As long as I am alert when on the street, and extremely vigilant and ready to move fast in parking lots, my plan is probably the best I can do.
Well, I guess I am not a very good devil's advocate, because that's all I can come up with. Carly?
Carlotta said just what I was going to say, so there is no need to repeat it.
Okay, Carly. Well, Mike, were you also going to say the same thing?
Actually, I was going to stay with my specified plan. Now, however, after hearing Carlotta, I will embrace walking in the middle of the car lanes to maximize the distance that an attacker could hide among the parked cars and attack. There isn't much more one can do when on the streets or in parking lots, other than be alert and have pepper spray at our immediate command with a taser backup. I am questioning carrying a launcher in a bag. Better, perhaps, to have both hands free. I am thinking perhaps 2 tasers. It would be easy to conceal too. I am pretty good with my left hand.
When I first got interested in less lethal alternatives to firearms, I was attracted to the launchers. As I got into launchers, I realized that the ones powerful enough to be a deterrent were either too cumbersome to carry or required wasting seconds to charge them for action. I stick with my personal defense plan when on the street of pepper spray and a taser. I haven't decided whether I will continue to carry my TCP when riding my e-bike. I would have to dismount the e-bike to be able to deploy it. Not so with the pepper spray and taser.
From what I see on the news, the attackers of e-bike riders tend to be teens, in groups of at least 3 or 4. That might be too much for 1 cylinder of pepper spray. The taser is good for only 1 assailant. I think you should keep carrying your TCP or perhaps get the new TRP for a faster deployment time. You seemingly give in to the thieves and dismount, then when they are distracted for a few seconds, you deploy your launcher. I think your original defense plan was sound.
I agree with Carly.
So do I.
Okay, I will stick to the plan. Let's move on to the area of home defense. Launchers will take center stage and pepper sprays are basically retired. The taser and stun baton, however, may also have a place in a defense of the home plan. Let's start off with another tenet. If someone can enter your home unannounced, you have already lost. More important than any weapons you have gathered is an early warning system to let you know someone is trying to break in or is snooping around the exterior of your home. The second component should be strong exterior doors and locks on all windows. The third component is to identify a choke point where intruders will have to breach to reach you and other household members. The fourth component is to designate a room to be a safe room where everyone knows to go to in the event of a home invasion.
Before we get into all of that, I think we should explain the difference between a burglar and a home invader. I know my husband and I thought they were one and the same, but that is not the case. Burglars are thieves, looking to steal valuables from your home while you are away or fast asleep in the early morning hours. Some are opportunists who take advantage of a security breach on the homeowner's part. Others may have staked out your home and activity schedule. The most important thing about burglars is they often do not carry firearms, and even when they do, they will usually only use them, or any other weapon they have, if their escape route is blocked by the owner, or a household member or members confronts them with force. Home invaders, on the other hand, usually travel in packs, and at least one member always has a firearm, and often they all do. They know someone is home, so they come with force. What makes home invaders particularly dangerous is they want someone to be home so they can tell them where the most valuable things are, under the threat of torture or death. If they think you have more than you actually do, it might get very ugly for you and yours.
Living alone in an apartment, the possibility of home invasion is very real to me. I have upgraded my entire home defenses accordingly. Although I am on the first floor of the building, I am high enough off the ground that a ladder would be required to get in through my windows. They are alarmed and I keep them locked anyway. The landlord forbade me from replacing the door, so I just added longer screws in the door and deadbolts fixtures and an alarm. I also installed a doorbell camera. My routine, when I arrive home from work, is to put the gavel in a bathroom drawer. I have a Tipman TIPX that Carlotta and her husband helped me set up with a 10-inch barrel and a 12-round magazine. I hide it when away, and put it on the nightstand, by the bed, when I get home. Put my taser in pocket or waistband, of whatever I change into, from my work clothes. If I am in the living room or kitchen and the doorbell rings or someone is at my door, the will pop up in a window, if the TV is on or on my phone. Depending on what I see, I assess the risk and act accordingly. If I decide to go to the door and inquire as to the identity and purpose of the unexpected visitor, I reach for my stun baton, which I keep in an umbrella holder by the door. It appears to be an umbrella, unless put under more close scrutiny. If somehow the intruder or intruders manage to crash in the door, I will use the stun baton to keep them from grabbing me as I run for the bedroom. I will fire my taser at the lead person in pursuit. If not hotly pursued, I will close and bolt the hallway to bedroom door. Either way, my next move would be to grab the TIPX and head for the safe room. In the safe room, my bathroom, I would have the TIPX and gavel and stun baton. If the intruders don't grab what they can and run at that point and try to break into the bathroom, I will shoot for the neck and head with launchers capable of 35 joules or more at near point-blank ranges. I am not naive, however, I know if they have guns they can dispatch me fairly quickly by just shooting through the walls. If hey don't retreat and don't kill me, that means I am the target for human trafficking or for their sadistic pleasure. I will prove to have been the wrong person to have targeted.
Indeed. Carly, indeed.
My husband and I were glad we could help with your home defense plan.
Mike, you have the toughest layout to defend than any of us. Are you staying less lethal?
That's a qualified yes. It occurred to me that even having a firearm, it would be a losing battle trying to confront invaders who are already in the house, and may have my daughter and granddaughter as hostages. Even if they were safe in the bathroom, a firefight could get them injured or worse, with bullets flying everywhere. The only entry points would be through the garage, front door, or the first floor rear windows. The alarmed garage door and steel-reinforced door between the garage and the interior pretty much ensured my daughter and granddaughter had time to reach the second-floor safe room. The front door is also a steel door with long screws on the main lock and deadbolts. There's also a lockable stone door with wrought iron bars. The only weak spot, therefore, is the rear windows on the first floor. I have cameras and motion detectors on them. Fortunately, the bathroom is windowless. My daughter and granddaughter know that if they hear strange noises or the rear alarms go off, they should head to our apartment if there is time, or to their safe room, which is their bathroom. If they make it to the second floor, then the stairs are a choke point that can be defended. If they only make it to their safe room, I will go down to the first floor foyer and listen to see if they are trying to break into the bathroom or just rummaging for things to steal. If the latter, we all wait for the police to come or for the intruders to leave. If they try and break into the bathroom, I will have to storm in and attack. The bathroom door is solid wood with a hefty lock with long screws. There are also bolts above and below the main lock. The hallway is narrow in front of the door, so only one person at a time can kick or ram it, and they would have no momentum. My modified HDB with S88 or 90 grams CO2 will shoot all 14 aluminum projectiles at 40 joules or more. This is no match against an invader or invaders with firearms, but they won't know I don't have a firearm, whether I hit them or miss. They will hear loud sounds and see holes exploding in the walls, or glass breaking and feel severe pain if they hit. There are few recorded cases where the invaders will not retreat when confronted by a homeowner with a gun. The danger is, they almost always will return fire as they retreat, with bullets going everywhere. If everyone makes it to the second floor safe room, I will try and hold the choke point stairs. If I get return fire but no retreat, I will break off and move into the safe room. As Carly mentioned, if they continue their attack, they are not interested in robbery, but murder. I have an AR-6 Tactical 2 crossbow pistol in the safe room with razor-sharp broadheads. If the cavalry doesn't come to save the day, I will do as much damage as possible for as long as possible. Other than a breakdown of law and order or some murderous cult, I think I can defend my household without a firearm.
Before we continue, I would like to go over the bullet items that are on the screen above. The first item, if someone can enter your home unannounced, you have already lost. This is true whether you have less lethal or a firearm for defense. The best home defense is one that bars or hinders easy entry into your home, such that no criminals bother. The next best is they have to struggle to get in, and you have been warned from the moment they approached. This allows ample time to call the police and prepare one's defense. Home invaders are a different breed from the average burglar. They know you are home and plan to take your household by force. They then will intimidate, beat, or torture you or other household members into helping them get all of your most valuable possessions. They may even hold household members hostage while they take you out to an ATM to get cash. You can't be sure that they won't hurt you or other household members, even when you comply. They may not leave witnesses. The question you have to ask yourself is, do you stay less lethal with such high stakes at risk? Whether you have a firearm or a less lethal device, you must confront home invaders upon entering. If you do, your chances of them retreating is very high for a firearm defender. The less lethal defender might want to try another tactic and shoot to miss the invaders. They would still need a powerful launcher that will put big holes in drywall, smash through glass windows, etc. In other words, make the intruders think you are firing at them with a firearm. If you use a weak launcher, it may bounce projectiles or just stick in the wall, crack but not destroy glass, etc. If you shoot and hit a home invader, you may injure them such that they think they have been shot by a firearm. If, however, they realize it on the spot that you are using something less lethal, rage may ensue, which will end badly for the less lethal defender. The second aspect of this, you successfully drive off the invaders, but they see their wounds later and realize that you didn't have a firearm. They may come back. You may decide not to confront the home invaders. You and other household members, if any, could barricade yourselves in the safe room and hope the police arrive in time. If your safe room door is hard to penetrate by crashing or kicking against it, they may move on. If they, however, use their firearms to blast the door and/or locks away, you will be faced with angry possible sociopaths, and you are counting on paying compliance to make them run away. Instead of Carlotta and I giving our potentially delusional less lethal home defense scheme, we will simply address the bottom line questions that will appear on the screen. We will then let Carly and Mike respond, perhaps changing some or all of their previous statements. Am I prepared to face intruders armed with firearms, using my less lethal devices? I would face them, but only at a choke point. I would have to decide at the moment of confrontation whether I would aim to hit any of the intruders. My thought now is I would fire into the wall and perhaps lamp, if I could do so before they could take a good look up the stairs. If they don't run, but fire back up the stairs, I will know too late that my decision to stay less lethal was a poor one. What less lethal device, or devices, would I use to face the intruders? I have upgraded my modified HDB launcher with 88-gram CO2 capsules. I would load the magazine with 16 times 9.9 grams PVC-covered steel balls. The launcher would be kept at the top of the stairs. On me, I would have a taser in my pocket and a TCP launcher turned up to 35 joules and a belly band holster. What non-firearm weapons would I have in the safe room? I have a AR-6 Stinger 2 tactical pistol crossbow with the 90-pound limb. It is potentially lethal with the razor-sharp broadheads or the bodkin-tipped bolts. If the intruders manage to get through the door, my life and the life of my wife will be in severe jeopardy. For one or more of them, however, there also will be lethal jeopardy. Do I think I can surrender and comply to the invaders once I have engaged? No, I don't think so. I think once you engage you have to see it through. If they are that determined, there is little chance of my wife and I coming out alive. There is a great chance, however, if we surrender, that both of us will be savagely brutalized before we die. Carlotta, you are up next.
My husband and I have talked extensively about confronting armed assailants with lethal or less lethal weapons. We concluded that if you confront home invaders with lethal or serious, non-lethal fire, they will turn and retreat. On the other hand, if you comply and surrender to them, they will have the power to do whatever they want to our family. As was mentioned earlier, if they think we have more valuables than we actually have, they might take out their frustration on us, or not believe us and try to torture the truth out of us. Whether we have less lethal or lethal, our job is to not let the invaders get the drop on us, and to get our daughter to a safe area in the safe room. Our alarms and stout door prevent a surprise entry. There is no motivation for home invaders to engage in a fire fight, even if they know we have inferior weapons. The noise is going to draw the police, and they can't get information about the location of our valuables if they kill us. The real danger armed home invaders present is firing back at us to cover their escape. I won't divulge specifics, but we have addressed the issue. First, my husband and I vacillated back and forth about whether to go with firearms or less lethal devices. Then we had the idea that there were other weapons to consider that weren't firearms, but were safer to be around children and had lethal potential, but also less lethal tendencies. We seriously considered the AR-6 Stinger II pistol crossbow. 2 of them could be hung on hooks on the wall, out of reach for our daughter. More importantly, even if she got a hold of one, there is nothing harmful she could do with it. She can't cock it, and the bolts are enclosed in a magazine. In the end, we rejected the crossbow pistol and high-powered pellet guns. We felt the pistol crossbow and high-powered pellet guns would almost certainly cause wounds that would require hospitalization or death. This may cause their friends, family, cohorts to seek retribution. If they were just scared off by prepared victims, they hopefully would just seek easier targets. With that in mind, we decided to stay with the Tipman TIPX as our confrontational weapons. We moved a large vase to be by the door. We hung a picture in a glass frame above it. Our plan is if home invaders actually manage to break in the door, we will fire at the vase and pictures, causing glass to scattered everywhere, and some shots making holes in the wall by the doors. Home invaders are not military troops. Their goal is not to take and secure the enemy's position. Faced with that barrage, upon entering, the invaders will turn and retreat. There is no motivation to do anything else. Once again, the danger will be, when they out of fear, fire some shots in our general direction to cover their escape. If our great plans prove to be fantasy, and the home invaders drive us back into the safe room, we know at that point they probably have murderous intentions. We currently have placed 2 pistol crossbows there, behind a barricade. We, however, are looking at the new Huben GK1 high-powered air pistol. But, as one of our critics commented, if we are going to get an air gun with the power of a small handgun, why not just get a firearm, preferably a shotgun? For now we are staying less lethal. For now. My husband and I agree that surrendering to home invaders is a really bad idea. Putting oneself and family at the mercy of a bunch of probable sociopaths could lead to terrors and pain, such that death would be a relief. If you engage them at the start, and then try and surrender, that would be foolishness at the highest level.
Well, Carly and Mike, since you two spoke before I injected the questions on the screen, I will let you both add, delete, or modify the statements you made earlier. Carly, you are up first.
As I sat here listening to you three, and evaluating my own comments, I have concluded that the best strategy against home invaders is to confront them before or while they are entering. It also seems that making the invaders believe you have a firearm is critical in getting them to retreat. I feel that the only way less lethal devices make sense in the defense of the home is, we assume the invaders don't plan to kill. This is a big leap of faith for me, as almost all home invasions have at least one person with a firearm. I also started to really think about how intruders can get in. With my camera set up at the door, with motion activation, I can see anyone trying to gain entry. Even if accomplices managed to stay out of view, they would need a law enforcement level battering ram to get through my door in a few whacks. My actions, therefore, would be to not even go to the door, but talk to the visitor via my phone and camera app. Go immediately to my bedroom and grab my TIPX. I would then fire at the intruders as they started to enter. Every scenario, however, the question is, what if they don't retreat? I will fall back to the safe room, where I have my gavel, and extra CO2 capsules, and 2 additional extended magazines, for the TIPX. I will have time to reload as I will be just waiting to see if they rummage through my apartment, or start trying to break in the bathroom door. I am staying less lethal, because in reality the chances of a home invasion is extremely low. The chances that intruders will ignore being shot at, alarms blaring and continue to seek and destroy me is even less likely. If my neighborhood sees a surge of break-ins and home invasions, I will go with firearms.
Mike, your turn. Any changes in your plan or thinking as you address the questions on the screen?
Because my daughter and granddaughter would be in the line of fire, even in the safe room, firearms are not a choice I will make. My thoughts about more lethal than less lethal, however, have grown as possible additions or changes. The crossbow pistol remains the weapon of choice in the safe room. The HDB with 88 grams CO2 will be the weapon I use to confront intruders, armed or not. I thought about replacing the HDB with another pistol crossbow, but the rate of fire is much slower, and it is silent and would not alarm the intruders of a resident with a firearm. Surrender is an option for me if somehow the intruders get to my daughter and granddaughter first. I have to, at that point, hope that the alarms and my wife calling the police will get them there in time. Surrendering, however, would just mean a hostage situation, even if the police arrive in time. I will give an ultimatum to my daughter. Either she takes seriously our defense plan and participate fully in our practice drills, or I will get firearms.
We at Less Lethal Options are growing, learning, and constantly reevaluating the practical use of less lethal devices for personal protection when on the streets and for home defense. Most in the self and home protection communities will say that ultimately we will come to understand that a firearm is the only way to go. Others will say they both are just tools, where the situation determines which tool is best for the job. As we take this journey with you, trying to decide on firearms, and less lethal, or just less lethal, which will prevail, we shall see. It basically took about 8 seconds for the invaders to break through the door. The door had a dead bolt, but that wasn't enough. The question to be asked is, did it matter whether the home defender had a firearm or a powerful, less lethal launcher? What can we learn? There was a storm door, mostly glass, but it didn't appear that it had been locked. I have no sound, but I don't believe there was an alarm. I think the defender just heard them trying to gain entry. The defender obviously had his firearm within reach of his sleeping position. The hallway was a proper choke point. The assailants were in the light, while the defender was in the dark. Since the assailants retreated almost immediately, you might ask, was a powerful launcher required? I say yes, because if the lead assailant was hit, and the projectile bounced off or just felt like a bee sting, he might have decided to press on. TV and movies notwithstanding, home invaders are not likely to get involved in a shootout. There is no upside for them.
These guys are professional burglars, more so than home invaders. They think there is no one home, except perhaps a household worker. They come with a vehicle and bags to carry the loot. They hacked the garage door opener. It seems like only one has a firearm. The owner is home, however, and probably heard the garage door, so he goes to retrieve his firearm. The burglars, still unaware, spread out to do their thing. The owner fires a short salvo, then retreats, to avoid their return fire. These men are about robbing, not fighting. See that this is a lost cause and run. They even leave the car.
This one is near and dear to my heart. I'm trying to come up with the perfect way to handle strangers at the door, and this guy does everything wrong. You can't count on this much time, given by stupid or inexperienced crooks. The way it ends, however, shows me that my TIPX, with extended barrel and mock suppressor, would scare these idiots as effectively as an actual machine pistol firearm. If the assailants kicked the door in right now, instead of waiting, this guy would be at their mercy, and his AR-15 style rifle would be of no use. I initially thought going to the door with my taser, and a stun baton near the door was sufficient. I now think I will go to the door with my TIPX. It should have a flight rather than fight reaction to almost anyone. And if I have to use it, it will do serious damage at those point-blank ranges. I of course would be viewing through a camera, not through a peephole.
Everyone's nightmare, the roving psychopath. This guy doesn't appear to be a robber, or home invader. It seems like he just felt like attacking the people in this home. When the husband comes to the door, he points the gun at him. The husband runs back to the bedroom, where his wife is, and locks the door. The assailant shoots into the house twice, he then shoots out the door glass, and enters. He shoots into the bedroom where the husband and wife are barricaded. His gun appears to jam, so with his chance for killing ruined, he leaves, taking, nor looking, for valuables. This couple has cameras, but no other security. They believe if a prowler comes around, you call the police, and they will handle it. I can't sugarcoat it. That is a very naive and dangerous state of mind. They are two adults, however, so that's their choice. My husband and I are constantly trying to figure out whether we can protect our daughter without firearms. We angst over this, constantly. What you viewers don't know is they have a young child in the room across from the parents' bedroom. The father makes no attempt to gather his child before going into the bedroom. You may say, it's easy for me to judge, because I am not confronted by a psychopath. I don't have to be in his, or his wife's shoes, to know it is their duty to protect their child. I know I will protect my child with every weapon at my disposal. Whether we choose those weapons to be firearms, more than less lethal, or less lethal, it is our decision. We will have to live with it. Defending our families with whatever category of weapons we choose, however, is not a choice, it's our duty.
The effects of a person being hit by a launcher's kinetic projectiles is at this time almost totally based on speculations. The justification for this speculation can be anything from shooting cookie sheets to breaking coconuts. We at Less Lethal Options based our recommendation almost totally on the results of tests done by less lethal advocate Jeff McKay. He got shot twice in succession by launchers shooting at 30 joules and 38 joules. He took both hits, but was able to continue to film the video, and said maybe he could take 3 or 4 before he would be incapacitated. We, therefore, set the low end of launcher power required to be effective in defense of one's home at 30 joules. But that doesn't mean the first shot. It means 3 to 4 shots or more. This is because Jeff thought he might be able to take 3 to 4 shots. The high end of 50 joules is substantially more than Jeff, or anyone else, has taken. Therefore, any launcher that can shoot a minimum of 3 shots at 30 joules or more is a candidate. To be a serious candidate, however, the launcher's first 3 shots should be 38 joules or more. Obviously, a launcher shooting greater than 50 joules is best. The reason we state 50 joules for the upper limit is for legal reasons. 3 or 4 shots at 50 joules or more is likely to do serious damage that will be compared to that of a firearm. We are recommending that people stay close to the 50 joules upper limit to help avoid possible legal troubles. As far as protecting one's family, however, higher is better, but be prepared to face the consequences.
The key to defending your home is you lay in wait for the invaders. You must have early warning to accomplish this. If someone gets into your house unannounced, they are the hunters. No matter what weapon you have, they have the advantage.
If you have an effective alarmed, early warning system, this will eliminate most burglars. In today's world, the home invader is the most likely intruder. There is almost certainly going to be more than one, and almost as certainly is the reality that at least one will have a firearm. So if your home defense choice of less lethal is based on the assumption that you will not confront intruders with firearms, think again.
My initial thinking for home defense was to get to the safe room as quickly as possible. Make a stand there, hoping the thieves would take what they wanted and not bother with me. Home invaders, however, might not be interested in snatch and grab. They may want to get to me, to direct them to my most valuable possessions. That possibility and my conclusion after watching dozens of videos of actual home invasion, in almost every instance, when the home defender confronted the intruders at the entry point or choke point, the intruders retreated, no matter how well armed they were.
There is a popular YouTube channel where the host often talks about mental and spiritual toughness. We all have to look really deep into ourselves and decide that we are actually willing to face criminals with firearms, with our less lethal launchers.
I will confront intruders with a modified Umarex HDB 68 caliber launcher. It is set up for using at 88 gram CO2 capsules. The projectiles will be aluminum balls. I changed to these, from heavier projectiles, because I felt even if the intruders saw that I wasn't firing bullets, metal projectiles hitting very hard would still cause them to pause, and hopefully retreat. If they saw composites break or what looked like rubber balls coming at them, they may be emboldened even though the joules may be higher. My setup's first shot is 55 joules or more and never drops lower than 40 joules.
If home intruders have ignored alarms, have continued advancing in spite of your initial attack, have come to the safe room and seem bent on breaching the entrance, what do you do? For me, it is Plan B time. The only Plan B that truly makes sense under those circumstances is a firearm. Being stubborn and for other reasons, I refuse to go there. I chose a repeating pistol crossbow with a 90 pounds lem, bodkin-tipped bolts, and a red dot laser. Its firing rate is similar to a pump shotgun, but a tad slower. I can aim center mass, just as with a firearm. Shots on point and luck is needed. High-powered air guns are another possibility, but they are usually much more expensive than firearms, and probably will be viewed as such, especially if they do lethal damage.
Once you commit and fire on the intruders, I think is near suicidal to surrender if chased into the safe room. You may have injured, and certainly pissed off the intruders. What they will do to you and your family once you surrender is the thing of nightmares. In the end, they are not likely to leave anyone alive. Better to fight with all you have.